I thought I'd start with a story about one of the great marketing challenges in history. Also, it's also one of the most inspiring. And also, it was developed, the campaign that resulted was developed by an advertising agency. So probably many of you, most of you are familiar with the story. And on the surface, it seems like it has nothing to do with all the issues you're thinking about: social media, big data, globalization, new marketing, and yet it has everything to do with all of those. Here's the story. About 15 years ago, an advertising firm called Crispin Porter got a project with the state of Florida. They were, I won't say desperate, but they needed their help to get teenagers to quit smoking. It's one of the great marketing challenges and public health challenges over the last several decades. I mean, for several decades, public health officials have been trying to get teenagers to quit smoking, but the numbers just kept going up and up. And finally, by the time Crispin Porter got involved, 33% of high school students had smoked in the previous year. 1/3 throughout the United States. The campaign that Crispin Porter ushered into the world was brilliant, and it was successful. But here's the key thing. Crispin Porter didn't create and didn't really execute the campaign. It was the Florida teenagers themselves that did so. And the brilliant insight of the senior executives at CMP that were working on this, a guy named Tom Adams and Jeff Hicks, their brilliant insight was no matter what we come up with, teenagers aren't going to believe us. Doesn't matter how great it is. The only people that teenagers believe are other teenagers. And what was brilliant and possibly revolutionary about their campaign was getting Florida teenagers to deeply involved in creating and executing that campaign. So let's take a quick look at how they did so. What did they do to get these teenagers to do that? There's 4 things. Number 1, they found rockin' leaders among the teenagers. Teenagers who would be especially good at creating peer influence, or if you will, positive peer pressure. And these kids were not hard to find. All they did was, they said, we're going to have a teen tobacco summit in Haines City. We're going to invite teenagers from all over the state. And here's what we're going to do. We're not inviting you there to hammer you and to talk you into quitting smoking. We're going to ask your input and advice on helping us to figure out how to do this. We're going to be addressing one of the great public health issues facing our state. We're looking for your input and advice. There's going to be media there. There's going to be all kinds of interesting people. A great way to meet new people in your peer group. It's going to be a lot of fun. Approached in that way, 600 kids show up to this thing. That's the first thing they did. Second, instead of selling, they educated these kids. They started providing research that they'd been looking at, statistics. One thing that really resonated was some documents that had become available showing how tobacco executives were targeting teenagers. These were smoking gun documents, emails, memoranda. This engaged these kids emotionally. I mean, they were outraged. But if you've got teenagers, it confirmed every teenager's deepest suspicion that somewhere adults are plotting against them. And here was the proof. Here was the smoking gun. Third, they reinvented their role as marketers. Crispin Porter did. Right? Instead of being the experts in marketing, we're the experts, so we have to develop the creative and the theme. Rather, they invited the kids to do so. And after getting involved with this information, they were ready. I mean, they rose to the challenge. On the spot, they started developing the creative, the ideas, the theme for the campaign, which was called Truth. And during all of this, Crispin Porter acted as advisor, as providing support, and continuing to educate them. And one thing that they asked these kids about, they showed them the old campaigns that they'd tried, that they'd used. And they asked them, why didn't these old ones work? And some of the old ones were things like, smoking will kill you, smoking will get you addicted. The response to this was, look, we've heard that before, we're going to live forever. And then they tried one previously that was, you'll be gross. You won't be able to get a date. And this was their response to that. It's like, come on. You know, about that time, Leonardo DiCaprio had just come out as a star of Titanic, smoking, and he had no trouble getting a date with Kate Winslet. So they found out what and why it didn't work. And then also from these kids, they got the creative, the idea, the theme that would be the ultimate campaign for getting teenagers in Florida not to smoke. Then, afterwards, to build and sustain the campaign, they built community of with these kids. An organization called SWAT was formed, Students Working Against Tobacco, and after the energy created in the summit, they had no trouble getting chapter leaders for all 67 counties in the state of Florida. And then these kids went to work. They started putting on whistle-stop train tours to take the message into local markets and local communities. They started putting on workshops. And as they're doing this, they're creating more ideas and more ads, more video. They're recruiting more members. So what's the result? What happened? Well, in less than a decade, teen smoking in the state of Florida dropped by almost 50%, a result unprecedented in the history of public health. New York, South Carolina started noticing what was going on. They implemented the same approach with their teenagers. They got actually slightly better results than they got in the state of Florida. So that's the template. If you look at companies that are figuring out social media and big data and globalization and what new marketing, what that's all about, they're basically doing what these guys at Crispin Porter did. But the difference is the Florida teen smoking story is well known. What these companies that I'm getting ready to show you about, doing the same thing with astonishing results, not so well known. And I'm doing my best with the help of Harvard Business Review and my book outside to get the word out, and in speeches like this and in talks like this. So let's take a look at how you, with not only can help your clients deal with this new world of marketing using these approaches, but how you can do this with your own firms and your own businesses. Let's take a look.